Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the World Explorers podcast. This is the podcast where we take a random prompt and we make an entire world around it. My name is Cassie, and as always, I'm joined by our prompt master, Isaac.
Hello! So, today, we're world building maybe something a little different. Like, we're not just starting off with a world, but instead, maybe a character duo. And the reason for this is because I was playing a game recently, and the game is called Them's Fightin' Herds, and there is a character. Yeah, it's that's what it's called. You got like a cow and a unicorn and an alpaca and like all these different quadruped animals beating each other up. Anyway, so there was this this character in there named Oleander. It's a unicorn using dark magic, and she's Anyway, so she's using this dark magic with the intent for good. Like, she believes that she can use dark magic for good, but she carries around this book with her, and it's this very clear, like, red and black dark magic-y spell book. And from this book there is this demonic creature that is there as a companion to her, and she says that he has this name that's like unpronounceable, unknowable, and it's this dark, evil name or whatever. And because it can't be pronounced or known or whatever, she says, so I just call him Fred. And so you've got this big demonic looking creature with like a skeleton or like a skull face and this shadowy smoke body, and he's got this roaring voice. And but then very randomly, he'll make this dramatic entrance in again with that roaring sound, and then just say, "Hello, I'm Fred." And I think I loved this character dynamic and this duo so much. I think this concept of this dark magic wielder running around trying to use dark magic for good. Meanwhile, it's likely corrupting her, and she's companioned by this demonic creature who is maybe trying to tell her, yeah, maybe the dark magic isn't a good idea. And maybe the dark magic will cause, negative effects. And so I'm like, let's take this concept and make our own version of it, because I just love this idea so much.
I'm not gonna lie, this sounds an awful lot like a short story I wrote when I was in middle school about a guy who was summoning a demon, but instead got turned into one and then got attached to another person unwillingly, and this person's very determined to convert them to be good and like renounce it, and at the same time trying to free him from being a demon.
I mean, that does also sound interesting.
Yeah.
It's a little bit different because, like, this is sort of like
that's what I was writing about in middle school.
Yeah, because what you were writing about was more like the person trying to convert the demon. This is more like the demon trying to convert the person, but he's not in the. We can do whatever we want. This is just sort of like the initial prompts that, like, laying out the groundwork that we can adjust and everything. But like in this instance, it was more like the demon just sort of warning against this person from using dark magic. It's like, because like one of their lines is even Oleander saying, "My magic may be dark, but it will bring light to the world." And Fred's just like, "Yeah, or dark, either one." Like,
this game sounds so weird. There is this ideology that you can't see the light unless there's darkness.
Well, I mean, kind of, because you need dark to compare it to.
Exactly. So some people would say that by bringing darkness into the world, they're making the light stronger. I think there's a lot of holes in such theology, but it doesn't surprise me to have a character who has that mindset, or the idea that if you use something for good, like doing wrong for good makes that wrong good.
Yeah, I think that's more the ideology that you generally see. Something like Spider-Man wanting to use the black suit for good. Like even if he knows it's corrupting him and everything. Like he did in the actual Spider-Man 3 movie, he realized it was corrupting him and then he abandoned it. But there's a really interesting
Okay,
game.
guys, but here's the thing. Another wrong does not make that wrong, the right you were trying to do with that wrong, actually right. Abandoning evil demon things to be picked up by other people is also wrong.
Yeah, but what I was gonna say was that there was a game. It was a Spider-Man game where he. This is sort of supposed to take place after the third movie, where he gets the black suit back, and he doesn't feel like it's
Oh.
corrupting him, and he's like, "Hey, I feel like I can control this thing, and I can use it for good." And meanwhile, MJ is like, "No, get rid of it." And he's like, "But I can't. But I can use it for good." And she's like, "No, you can't. Get rid of it." And he doesn't listen. It's a fun game. I think it was called Web of
Yeah.
Shadows. But yeah,
Just, people keeping dark artifacts thinking they can use it for good when you can't, guys. If something corrupts you, avoid it.
yeah. Like, and I think
Basic logic.
I do
there.
think it's a really interesting story premise though, and setup.
Also, I like that. I know it's. I do find that it's when it comes to objects, it's easier to say that. It's a lot harder to say that when it comes to people. So the fact that this book, this dark magic comes with a friend, definitely makes it a lot harder to let go of.
Yeah, it reminded me a lot.
I really want to use a Harry Potter reference, but I know it won't mean anything to you.
It reminded me a lot of Ella Enchanted and the book guy, the guy that was in the book for that movie. Have you seen it?
Yeah, I love that movie.
It's been so long since I've seen it, but I remember we watched it on repeat
I
because
would
we
watch
had the DVD back when people weren't just streaming everything.
Oh.
But yeah, he reminds me a lot of that character. They're even both in books.
I yeah, but he's not. I didn't say that character's like corrupt or anything.
No, he's definitely not corrupt.
He's
It's
just
more like
a guy trapped in a book.
Well, because that's kind of how
Okay.
Fred is in this game. He's just kind of there, and he's just going along with whatever Oleander's doing. It's just that every once in a while he's like, "Hey, you might is like your evil or your dark acts might bring darkness." But that's about as much as he intervenes. He doesn't go anywhere beyond that. And if she says, use Doom Claw or whatever attack, then he's just like, yeah, okay, you're the boss.
It's so interesting. I'm just trying to think of like what type of dynamic that is
Uh,
to have. I'm so used to whenever you see like because a demon assigned to a master dynamic is not an uncommon one in literature or anything really. But normally in that case, yeah, there's like the submissive ones, but there's also like the one trying to corrupt the other. So the idea of like a neutral demon that just does what they're told.
yeah, it's not a thing that's really done that often. And so far we haven't really done any of our own world building. It's most of it has been pulling from this game, and I'm like, okay, let's take this concept and see where we can go with it. Like maybe one place to start is where does the demon and the book and stuff come from?
That's a great question. Well, do we want to go with like summoning demons and you're just connected with it, or is the demon like tied specifically to this book?
I think it would make
So as
sense.
long as you have the book, you have the demon.
I think it makes sense to tie it to the book because
I think so.
otherwise
as well.
it's like, what's the point in the book?
Well, I mean, the book has all the dark, evil, weird spell things that you can use. So it sometimes, with these things. It's just one of the spells happens to summon a demon companion, but also the book could have a protector that is the demon.
Oh, so maybe the demon is not
Um,
like trapped within the book or anything, but the demon is rather uh the protector of the book. Like the book is maybe has some sort of dark ancient magic that is not intended for anyone to read and or destroy or do anything with, and so it protects the book, demolishing anyone who gets near it, except for this one individual because maybe they're the chosen one.
oh no.
But no, hold on.
Chosen one.
This is actually an interesting setup
Okay.
because you don't usually see a chosen one story where the thing that is calling the chosen one is a dark magic item. Usually it's like light magic item to go and fight the dark magic item. Sometimes you get like a dark villain chosen one, but this is like a good guy chosen one destined to use dark magic.
So the question is, though, is the Dark Book choosing this person because it wants to corrupt them? Or is it choosing them because it thinks this is the one person that can uncorrupt the book, or actually, I don't know, can either free the demon or something? Like, what's this book's and or demon's goal in having a chosen one?
Well, my immediate thought was this book was created a long time ago, could be by some ancient wizard or king or god or whatever it was. Uh, and the book is supposed to be used as a tool to overthrow the Dark Lord or whatever. Maybe it was formerly the Dark Lords, but then uh, the Chosen One was destined to use it to save the day, whatever saving the day might be in this case. But the demon that's tied to it was maybe also enlisted by a wizard or whatever to act as sort of a guide to the hero.
Okay, well, at this point, though, it's not seeming like a really dark, scary thing anymore. And I think that's something we do have to be careful of, is it do, I don't know, it's loses a lot of, like, its corruptibility if its main purpose is to do something that's actually good,
Well,
instead of this just being a purely evil
I was thinking
thing.
this could be something that was originally intended for evil. Like maybe it's like one of those areas where the person who chose the chosen one might not have it might have had some questionable morals, or maybe saw this dark magic option as like the most powerful and most effective and most reliable option uh, to save the day. But saving the day requires casting spells such as draining life, or maybe opening a void to the demon world, or to trap enemies, that sort of thing. Like there are all these dark magic spells that
Yeah.
each time you use one corrupts the wielder a little bit more. But the idea was to find somebody who was so pure of heart that they were uncorruptible. Now the problem here is, as soon as the pure of heart person starts using the corrupted book and the dark magic spells to do something as horrible as killing, that person may no longer be very pure of heart, and so is slowly becoming more and more corrupted as the story progresses. And but over time, but throughout the entire thing, is still thinking, I'm still doing the right thing. This book can't corrupt me. Maybe even thinking the book can't corrupt me because I'm the chosen one. I'm immune. I'm invulnerable. And then that
Yeah.
mindset allows this person to become corrupted. And meanwhile, the demon's just sitting there watching, like,
Yeah.
you might want to be careful. And then character's just like, nah, I'm fine. Meanwhile, it turns into something
I
like,
know, but at the same time, like,
go ahead.
is the like that arrogance. I mean, most people. It depends, I guess, what you associate with pure of heart, but normally, I don't know, it's just it seems like this really weird line you'd have to balance between this character of you want someone who can people can reasonably see as having had been that pure of heart, but at the same time, you don't want like a Mary Sue or
Well,
something horrible like
I'm
that.
saying that this person starts off as very, happy-go-lucky character, lighthearted, wouldn't hurt a fly. But then then it's told, okay, because you are so pure and innocent and everything, you are the person who is required to go and start murdering people. And then she could be like, oh, I don't want to do that. That sounds awful. But then maybe gets forced into positions where it's like, oh, you're surrounded by enemies. You have only one way out, and that's use the book. You cast some dark magic. And then maybe the first time it's a difficult thing and it's it might feel like traumatizing thing. But the more you do it, the less painful it is. The more casually this character could start using dark magic. Just everywhere she goes, like no problem, like it's nothing. And it gets to a point where formerly it was, I don't want to kill anyone because that sounds awful. I would never take anybody's life. To lives are meaningless so long as I achieve my end goal. Maybe it's like, or because so long as I save more lives in the end. And so, no longer cares how many lives she takes.
Is that like the goal of the book? Actually, is the book not actually a thing that has this supposed goal that's good in the end that it wants to be used for, but is its goal actually to lie to people and say, hey, you're the chosen one, you're this pure of heart, you can't be corrupted, come use my book because you're the only one who can. But in reality, it's just trapping souls that way.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like maybe the book is kept alive by feeding on souls.
Like ones that you think are good, but the truth of the matter is like
Oh, I thought you were
most.
talking about like the book is encouraging killing and then takes those lives and feeds off of them.
I mean, but I also think it's feeding off the main person too. Getting to corrupt something. Some I don't know. I just going by like classic corrupting mechanics
So,
is that it gains power off of the lives it kills and then pours it back into the person to corrupt them even
so
faster.
it could be like a feedback system. Is it maybe it's something like the more corrupt the person becomes, the more powerful the book becomes, the more potential this person has to use bigger, darker spells and become even more corrupt faster.
Yeah. It's a
Yeah.
downward slope and it gets slippery fast.
Yeah, so it becomes extreme. So once you're in, it can become extremely difficult to pull yourself out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you'll ever truly be able to pull yourself out. You've killed people. The moment you've done something like that, there's no real going back. Like, you could try to make amends and you can reconvert and you can start over, but that stuff doesn't leave you.
Yeah, like that's the sort of thing that it would stick with you uh for the rest of your life. So what is okay, wait, I just thought about something. What would the lie be? Like if you're the chosen one, who are you trying to
Well,
overthrow? Who
oh,
are you trying to defeat? What army are you fighting?
it could be any person in power at the time, and the book just changes according to how it feels. You feed off innocent looking people who just they've been wronged by some higher being, and you say you're the chosen one who's meant to destroy this higher being, and maybe eventually you do, but then they always just end up taking the place, and then the book goes off and finds someone new with the demon. You wake up one day and suddenly the demon and book are gone, and it's because they went to find someone else to corrupt to come and overthrow you, and it's the endless cycle of like every dictator has been placed on the throne by this book and gets replaced by the next person the book picks. So, like, the book's not lying to you. You'll get to overthrow them, but you're just gonna become them in the process.
Now, what happens if somebody sees through the lies of the book?
I don't know. I was thinking like an interesting story would actually be someone who's got corrupted, got put in that place of power, kind of realizes what's happening, and then sends someone else out to stop the book. Like, they're already corrupted, but maybe they're sending someone out with like another lie of their own because they realize the book's going to try to overthrow them. So they have the ill intentions of stopping this next person who's being corrupted, but by doing so, they send someone that actually ends up defeating the book and also them in the process, and finally breaks the cycle.
I just thought about something. I'm not sure if this would work or not for the story. So based on what you said. So what if the book went around corrupting people, and now you've just got like this empire of
Mm-hmm.
like rulers of towns and sheriffs and kings or whatever. They've all they're all these corrupted rulers, but one of them realizes how corrupted he's become and says the book needs to be stopped, but I can't go and stop it because the book might try and fight me or it might try and run away from me or whatever. But what if because of this, this king went to someone he trusted and warned him of the book, said, hey, this book will try to corrupt you. It will use it'll try and get you to use its dark magic, claim it's for good, and then corrupt you in the process so you become the next evil ruler. What I want you to do is go out, find this book, and start using its dark magic to overthrow all of the evil leaders, but in the process, do not let it corrupt you. Just play along with its lie, and all the while you know what it's trying to do, and then when all is said and done and it's failed to corrupt you, throw it in a volcano. And then now you've got this.
Well, I mean,
Well,
this
now
person.
you've got a story about like how the main character ends up getting a hold of this book and is going around on this adventure trying to overthrow the evil rulers, while at the same time trying to resist the corruption and the temptation that this book is throwing at him. And plus, you also get
And then you have the demon sidekick,
you get the demon psychic.
who's probably just very confused. I'm like, why won't you use the book? We're in all these impossible situations, and you're somehow finding a way out of them without using the book.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. Like, was this person given another method that can help them get out of these like impossible situations without having to rely on the book, or is it just a luck thing? And they're so determined not to use the book that they just trust that somehow they'll survive this.
I
And
say
then they
grappling
just do.
hook and a short sword. Do you have any idea how much you
That
can
can
do
get
with
you
a
out of a lot
grappling
of
hook?
situations, yes, but yeah, no, I said that can get you out of a lot of
Yeah.
situations, yes, but
I'm thinking like you can use the grappling hook in a lot of creative ways.
I'm seeing like situations happening where this person does have to make horrifying sacrifices, like losing a loved one. Like the book gets them in a situation where someone they care about is gonna die if they don't use it, and they still choose not to use it, and they do watch the person die.
I
Like
feel
one
like
of
that's
those
the sort of
situations.
situation where they would be forced to use it. Like you often have
I don't, but that's yeah, no, but this is the thing. Like this is the difference between this person and everyone else. Is that when they're faced with a situation like that, they still
well,
don't
the
do
idea
it.
was that this person was supposed to go around using the evil book for good, knowing that it's trying to corrupt them and resisting the corruption the entire way. So going and using the dark magic. Otherwise, there's no
Yeah,
point in
but
having a book if you're just not going to use it. Just go overthrow the bad guys.
I mean there might be a point to it. The point might be to convince the book that you want to use it, so the book isn't off corrupting someone else. Or maybe like the book attaches itself to people and like can't let go until it finishes corrupting them like it has to. And this is the person that's selected, but this person's just very stubborn and because there's still this idea like this book is corrupting you if you use it. That's how it corrupts you. So it doesn't matter how good it seems what you're using it for. That's how it does it. The only way to resist something like this is not to use it, no matter what that might look like or cost you.
I mean, but if you don't use it, like I feel like the character has to use it.
Oh my gosh, you're gonna get so
That's
corrupt.
kind of
You would be
it's
corrupted
kind
by
of
the
the
book
idea.
so
The character
quick.
has to use it, otherwise it's not interesting. And plus, you're walking into Mary Sue territory, where this character is just totally uncorruptible. Would never use the book, even to the point of like letting a loved one die. Like it's just so much where I'm like, the character has to use the book. Like it's there's gotta otherwise it's not going to be nearly as interesting.
They're like There are other ways to have like a character do horrible things that doesn't involve using the book. Like other ways to feel like a character's corrupt without at least
Yeah, but when
feeding
you
into the
have
book.
a corruption, like evil, dark tool right there in your tool belt, I feel like that's what you should be using. I'm not saying you can't use the other stuff, but when you have this one, like it would feel like Chekhov's gun, except you've like bolted and duct taped it to the wall so it could never leave. That's kind of what it feels
Yeah.
like at this point. They gotta use the book.
I maybe that's just a part of me that really wants to bug readers and that they never use it.
The reader
Or
should
that's
not
how they
feel
I don't know, it's
annoyed.
just there is that time. Yeah, but there is an interesting dynamic of like knowing you can't use this thing and if you do it's game over. And that's just always on the back of your minds. And then watching like horrible things happen and knowing that could be easily over, but you still constantly choosing not to do it, and it's painful and it struggles and you hate yourself and you hate this book and you hate this journey you're on and you're stuck with it because I don't know, maybe you're on a mission to destroy it and you have to take the book to a certain place to destroy it or something, and along the way you're constantly being tempted and you're constantly having to shut it down, and you start lashing out in other horrible ways that's corrupting you in different ways that's not even related to the book, and you're feeling that happen and you're just feeling useless and awful and you want to use it but you just
Okay,
can't because you know
so
what
Lord of the
happens if you
Rings.
do.
This is a lot like Lord of the Rings.
Yeah,
Here's the
except
thing, this is
he
a lot
used
like
it.
Lord of the Rings if Frodo never used the ring. Do you realize? Think about this for a moment. Do you know how boring that would have been? Because he is tempted, he resists using it, but there are times where he is forced to use it, like when Boromir is attacking him for it, or when he needs to like sneak past some enemies. Like he does use the ring because if you never use it, it's not interesting.
I don't know. I think I could write this story and make it interesting. I feel like
You
I'm
can
being
make
challenged
parts of
right
it
now.
interesting, but this one massive area is just gonna be staring readers in the face, and again, it's gonna look like Chekhov's gun, but bolted and duct taped to the wall.
There are other ways the books can be used too without this character being the one.
Yeah, I
to
mean, you
use
could
it.
have like other people go and use the book, but it still feels like the main character needs to be the one using the book. Unless the main character isn't the one who has the book, then you could have somebody else wield the book and use it. But at that point,
This is the Samwise, but
yeah,
the
but like, at
Samwise
that
is the main
point,
character.
the person using the book is no longer the main character, and that was sort of like the entire idea was like good guy using this dark magic for attempting to do good deeds, all while trying to avoid being corrupted, and maybe not even realizing that they're being corrupted because it's so subtle. And this person takes on through this corruption, this person takes on arrogance, thinking, no, I'm the chosen one. I'm pure of heart. I can never be corrupted. And just totally misses what's happening to them. And there might be like some sort of massive reality check, like maybe running into some old friends who are like, "Hey, you've turned into kind of a jerk," or ends up doing something to get a friend killed, or just something that gives them a wake up call.
I mean, that's also a valid way to do this story.
I just don't see what advantage you get from not using the book.
I guess it just depends on like. I'm coming from the idea that like just touching the book, like one use of the book and it's over, type thing. Like you just want to avoid that. Like the only way someone can actually successfully defeat a book like this is to never use it, but to have been constantly tempted using it. And you're coming from the idea that you can be tempted and you can use it a couple times and then still destroy it in the end. And that's just the different mindsets. That's the two different points that are coming here. And of course, either one that you do, you have to write completely different stories based off of that. And the main character is going to go on different paths and have very different struggles and events and things that happen to cause that, to get to that end point. Like, end point's still the same, but the journey would just be very
so we
different.
haven't fully worked on all the mechanics of this book, but what you're saying I think could work in a certain scenario. So book needs to feed off of someone's corruption to gain more power and to live. And eventually, the way you need to kill it is to just not use the book. Now, you got the problem of once you grab the book is probably going to immediately realize you're trying to kill it because you're not using it when you clearly should be. And so it's going to try and reach out to other people and get others to use it. Now, what I'm thinking is maybe the book is magically tethered to whoever comes into contact with it. So if I grab and pick up the book, I am now tethered to it. And we can have, just for like fun aesthetic sake, we can have a magical symbol or whatever that appears on the person's forearm or something. That looks like a tattoo to symbolize that, symbolize that
classics.
connection. But as soon as someone else is tethered to it, the tattoo disappears, and they've got it now. Now, this book might try to get other people to grab a hold of it by maybe shouting out, "Hey, I'm a dark, evil book, and I'll give you magic powers," or whatever. And so this person is now trying to keep the book from being stolen or picked up by like, other people. So maybe like bandits are wanting it or whatever. The book is trying to alert the bandits to its location and everything. Say, "Hey, come grab me so that I can give you endless power." And the hero, or the main character, is trying to not use this book, but also fight off all the bandits or escape.
And of course, there's like other things happening too. And I'm sure the book has multiple methods of just ruining this person. And again, the person knows it can't do an outlet by using the book, but there are other horrible outlets people will take that doesn't involve using the book that can make the character interesting.
Yeah, but there should be,
like, there could be, this just might be the one evil it can't
my point is
touch.
That despite all of that, there still needs to be the main character using the book at least a few times, and whenever it happens, like, it should be a big deal. Like, make it it's gonna be a big grand moment and very dramatic because the character is trying so hard to do it, and like in the process you're rooting for the character to maybe win a fight or escape a situation, and when they turn to the book, you're like, yes, the character managed to do it, hooray. But at the same time, you're like, oh no, the character just used the book. And so the character walks away with a victory, but it's a very costly one. And so now they're more corrupted and the book has more power. So I feel like you need to use the book, like at least a little bit.
And I just think you could do the story without them using the book.
And it would be boring.
And I disagree, and that's okay. We can disagree on how to write this story. It was bound to happen eventually. We've made like 60 of these, 70, 80. Too many. Well, eventually we would disagree on how a story should be written.
Yeah, I mean, we tend to agree, like, usually what happens is we have multiple story alternatives, and then you'll say, oh, I like this version better, and I'll say I like this version better, but in the end, we both say, yeah, they both work. They're both good options. But this time around, it's like, I'm just sitting here going, no.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking your version's fine. Like, I've seen your version. That's the thing. I've seen your version with Unch. I know it works because I've seen it work. I just really want to try my type of version instead. Because I like the challenge of making a character like this, but making sure they're not a Mary Sue and making it interesting. Because it would be, I agree, it would be a lot more challenging to write this character and write this story and keep people engaged with it. But I do believe it's possible, and I do think it'd be a really good story if it's done right. I agree. Mine's more challenging. Mine's a more difficult story to write, 100%. But that doesn't mean I think it's impossible to write it. I don't think any story is impossible to write.
I agree. I don't think it's impossible to write. I just think, like you said, it would be very difficult to write and make it good. Or at least on par with the alternative, which would be a lot easier to write, and I really do think has the potential to be far more interesting. And so that's why I'm like, why would you bolt Chekhov's gun to the wall?
Well, I mean, here's the difference. You don't know I've done that. And there is a point to that. Like, the character still doesn't know, like, the readers or the watchers or whatever version this is, they don't know you've done that. And you have that, you're holding that in front of them the
And so
entire
they're going to
way.
be very
And
disappointed by the
yeah,
end when then
maybe,
the gun doesn't go off. They're going to be like, wait, I was waiting for this big dramatic thing to happen. Why didn't it happen?
which means that you do have to find, like, a different method to still make it satisfying. And I personally don't know what that would be for the ending. But I do believe it's something, there is a way you could have done that makes it
Or
possible
yeah,
to still have that dramatic feeling and that satisfaction of, like, this person did it. Because there is that satisfaction. It's a satisfaction we don't get from many books and stories, to be honest, of a character actually succeeding in the mission, like, fully. Despite it
I
all.
mean, you've also got to
They
make
did
it
it.
so that the what you're doing is you're not necessarily letting people know that you've bolted the gun to the wall, but I think rather what would happen is you'd be needing to convey to the audience that this isn't Chekhov's gun. You have to maybe make it very clear somehow that this gun will never fire. Because at that point, because here's the thing, when they don't expect it to fire, then they don't get disappointed when it doesn't go off. But if it's sitting there, I really don't know how you can make it not go off without people being disappointed. Like, you have to have like one crazy epic alternative to this gun going off. Like, pull out a different gun out of the closet all of a sudden that no one's seen and fire that. And it's gotta be you can't just fire a gun. It's gotta be a tank that you're firing. You gotta fire some cannons in comparison, just so that people aren't disappointed by this.
Okay. I don't know. I think you underestimate, like, subtle story. And again, maybe there's just also a different tone shift in this type of story than there would be in, like, your type. Like, your type does have, like, the dramatic magic use and stuff like this, where this one it's a lot more of an internal story. Like, I think the tone and the style of writing you use might also affect it. So, like, dramatic YA fantasy for yours would be an easy one to fall into. But for something like this, you definitely have to go, like, more probably psychological, or just a different shift where the setting and the style and the genre of the story makes it so people don't expect it to be used, aren't surprised when it's not used in the end, because the genre and the style of the writing itself suggests that there's a chance that this might not be used, and that's okay because of the style and the genre. So
Okay, at that point, I think I could see it working.
Because you might just be like, yeah, because I think what's happening is you're stuck in the idea that if I was to write a story like this, that I would be writing it as a YA fantasy, like, in that, like, more, I don't know. People know what YA fantasy is. You know the style I'm talking about. Like, in that type of grandeur and dramatized style, where maybe this is more like an adult fantasy setting, but, like, where it's a bit
I feel
more
like there would
gritty
be
and a bit
very
more
little to no action, like, at all. It would all be like mental and psychological and.
there could still be action. I have some scenes, like, I would want to add in that would be a bit more action based, but I think at the end of the day, it's less Aragog and more The Road. Don't know if you've read The Road.
No.
Okay. I don't know how to describe The Road. But The Road, it's like a guy. Yeah, it's a guy and his kid on a journey, and they, like, go through a lot of hell and stuff. But it's him throughout the entire journey, just determined to raise his child up the best that he can and give this child the best future. And it doesn't matter what's happening around them. And there's horrible things that happen. He'll never give up on that goal. He's very focused on the goal. And that's the mindset I feel like this character would have, is the father in The Road mindset, where, yeah, all this horrible stuff is happening, but he's very focused on this goal. And because he's focused on that goal, he's going to make a ton of other horrible mistakes and have terrible things happen to him. But at the end of the day, people reading the story knows that this father is not abandoning this kid. There is no question in anyone's mind reading this book that this is, like, that's never going to happen. And it's the same in the story that I would write, is that people see this person and this book and they're like, they know he's never going to touch it, he's never going to use it, but because he's not going to do that, he's going to have hell to face. and he's going to make a lot of worse, some might even say worse mistakes, and characters might be like, just give up. Like when the readers themselves get to the point where like, dude, just give up. You holding on to this is like a worse evil almost. That's the point you want to get to when in a story like this, and it's possible because The Road did it, and The Road's an amazing book, and I would recommend if you want to cry like a lot.
If you want a scenario where you can have like the belly of the whale, darkest hour moment for this book, the main character loses the book, and because some people had stolen it when he's so close to the end of his journey to destroying it, and so now he's and now maybe he's got to get it back from these people who are now using it for whatever ridiculously evil acts they may be causing or they may be doing, and he's got to manage to get so now like I'm determined to use this magic somehow. But like
And
maybe
I'm
the
sure you
villains are not
can
using
use
the
it.
magic.
I'm sure the
I'm just thinking,
magic will get used because people need to know what the book does, obviously. Or else, like, why are you destroying this and things? And so, obviously, the book is going to get used. The point is that just the main character is so obsessive about not using it that becomes his weakness in a way. Like, that, it's just the whole other extreme. You know, when you have someone who's just focused on one thing, like, so hyper-focused, they'll give up things, they'll do horrible things for that one thing. That's the type of character I would want to write for this story, who's so determined not to become corrupted by this book that throughout the journey, sure, they succeed in the end, but what did it cost them type thing. It's not a happy ending, I don't think, in this story. Because they're done. They succeed, and then that's that. That's their purpose done. You know, instead of, like, Gollum coming in and pushing them in because he's used the dark magic at the end, this is the guy who just, like, wants to end it and just jumps into the volcano with the book. Like, that's the type of thing this is. Just done.
I think that's one of the big differences between the types of stories that you like and the types of stories that I like is that I am much more like, I want my happy ending and I want my big action-packed, dramatic, over-the-top moments where you're like, let's make it more subtle, psychological, and then have a not happy ending.
Well, let's kill the main character in the end in this way that, a person, like, wants to fling the book across the room after finishing reading it, but at the same time, then they feel bad because they feel like they've hurt the character, and they go pick it up, and they brush it off, and they put it gently on their shelf, and then they go cry in their bed for 5 hours trying to, like, process everything. That's the type of book I like to write. And also read.
I mean, I like the sad moments. I just want the sad moments to not be the last moments. Like,
Sometimes
I just watched...
Yeah?
I just watched Wreck-It Ralph for the first time.
Oh,
yeah,
right.
it's been around for like 10 years or more, or like 11 years, but I just watched it for the first time. And it's such a good movie, and it has such sad, emotionally heart-wrenching moments. But you know what else that movie had? A happy ending. It also had big, dramatic moments.
Isaac. Wreck-It Ralph is the perfect example for this. You know why? Wreck-It Ralph has a second movie. And the ending of that one is a bit more like the style I talk about.
I have not seen the second movie, but now I kind of don't want to see the second movie.
It's good! Wreck-It Ralph 2, honestly, is pretty good. If you ignore how awful it dates itself, just ignore those references and the weird, like, YouTube, social media things that it tries to throw in there that it really didn't need. You ignore all those. It's a really good movie, and I like it too. I do like the first one better, I'll be honest. The first one's still better. But the second one's good, and the second one does have more, like, the ending that I was talking about. And it's good evidence of how these two characters in the story could be used to have, like, both endings and both types of stories.
I can neither...
Wreck-It Ralph, good example.
I can neither agree nor disagree because I haven't seen the second one yet. But from what you're telling me, it sounds a lot like the Emoji Movie, but done right.
The second one, yes. Honestly, that's a very good way to describe it. Oh, okay, I can't say, like, the internet setting. Do I think Wreck-It Ralph 2 would have been better in a different setting? Yes. Like, If they had just stuck with like the setting they used. I don't know how they would have done it then because of the way the story's written. So I understand why they went this direction. I just again think they made choices to date them and stuff that was very unnecessary. But if like I would chop things out. Honestly, I think I would like Wreck-It Ralph 2 to be diced up and like parts removed that are unnecessary. But otherwise, it's good. I still like it though. I would watch it
This episode went sort of off
all
track.
over the place.
We just kind of went from talking about the demonic book to
Look,
talking
we
about
left.
Wreck-It Ralph.
Look, the demon, a companion, just got abandoned like a third of the way into this discussion. I don't think he fits in my story very well. He could, or in yours even really either. It just became a book.
Yeah, I mean, I still think that the demon could be a fun companion. There's a lot you could do with the idea of like this demon that's just sort of he's just sort of chilling, and he has this sort of attitude and personality of just sort of going with whatever.
And I could see honestly, I could see the demon being an interesting, at least in like my version of the story, as a something that the character gets to abuse and just throw hate. Like, I can't destroy the book yet, but this demon this book's produced to follow me around, I can do whatever I want to this thing. And maybe even like building sympathy for the demon and like having consequences of that has to be fulfilled at some point throughout the story.
Yeah, there's all sorts of different relationship dynamics that you could give with this demon and the main character. It could be buddy comedy. It could be like just sort of more like a pet. It could be more like a dark lord, like whispering into the character's ears, trying to corrupt them. It could be all kinds of different things.
Yeah,
like
endless possibilities.
Like, just give it a personality, give it a goal, and just see how that plays off of the character. See how that plays off the main character, and there you go.
Yeah, but I think that's a fine place to end it. We did spend most of this just debating what version, but I'm surprised that like an episode like this hasn't happened sooner, to be honest.
I mean, we agree on most things when it comes to writing. We just have different preferences. This one, we just outright disagree on how the writing would work. However, in the end, we ended up agreeing when it comes to like a very specific type of book.
Yeah. Oh, I'm well aware that like the story I want to write has to have a... But who knows, maybe this will be one that I write just to prove that I can. After grad school, I got 1.5 years left. I don't have time.
And then I'll write the happy-go-lucky demon guy. And I'll write like a whole.
And yours will do better because everyone likes happy books more.
Yeah, people like happy endings. Like, it's not my fault.
Yeah. Okay.
Like
here's the thing, Isaac. Yours will be more popular, but mine will get all the awards.
That's true, actually.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So let's.
Just like the Oscars. Where all of the Oscar movies are absolute trash, and all of the great...
Whoa! I would like to say my book's not gonna be trash. It's a different... Oh, wow.
I'm required to insult you.
Wow. No. Yeah, no, you did. That was quite the insult there.
That's a joke that no one listening is gonna get, because that was a conversation before we started recording.
And I don't think you want to explain that joke.
Nope.
Anyways, yeah. Okay, we're just gonna leave it there. Let's leave these people dissatisfied because we're not gonna explain the joke to them. Bye, everyone!
I'm sorry.